Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudinjini Nashtuprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, continuing with our discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Text number 17 onwards. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam ev cha sthitam bhutbhartri cha tadgeyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. So now Krishna is talking about the qualities of the super soul. I think so far earlier he talked about the soul and some other thing about the super soul. This is about the um, knowable. He's talking about the knowable. The two knowables, the soul and the super soul. So super soul now he's talking about. Although the super soul appears to be divided among living beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is a maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. Does this mean that he has become divided? No, actually, he is one. The example is given of the sun. The sun at the meridian is situated in its place. But if one goes for 5,000 miles in all directions and asks, where is the sun? Everyone will say that it's shining on his head. In the Vedic literature, the example is given to show that although he is undivided, he is situated as if divided. So the Lord, like Prabhupada starts the purport with, the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. So the super soul is in everybody's heart. In your my heart, I'm sitting in here in USA, you are sitting in Delhi in your heart. So is the Lord one or is he divided in among all of us? So what Krishna is saying and what Prabhupada is also referring to, that although he appears to be divided among all beings, he's never divided. He's the same person. He's the same everywhere. And Prabhupada gives the example of sun. So suppose, right now here is night time, but suppose you are there and it's 8:30 a.m. over there, and somebody's in Bangladesh, it's 9 a.m. over there, and you ask him, where is the sun? He'll say, it's on my head. It's right above me. And you say, it's right above me also. Is the sun divided or sun one? Sun is only one. But when we look at it from our perspective, we think it is divided. So similarly, super soul is one. Although he is situated in everybody's heart, well, it's an expansion of Kshirodaksha Vishnu, which is situated. So Kshirodaksha Vishnu is one, and his expansion is situated in everyone's heart, but that is super soul. He appears as divided, but it's not divided. Also, it is said in the Vedic literature that one Vishnu is present everywhere by his omnipotence, just as the sun appears in many places to so many persons. And the Supreme Lord, although the maintainer of every living entity, devours everything at the time of annihilation. So, although he is a maintainer, he is a Janardhan, but at the time of annihilation, he changes roles and he just finishes off everything. This was confirmed in the 11th chapter, when the Lord said that he had come to devour all the warriors assembled at Kurukshetra. He also mentioned that in the form of time he devours also. He is the annihilator, the killer of all. When there is creation, he develops all from their original state. And at the time of annihilation, he devours them. The Vedic hymns confirm the fact that He is the origin of all living entities and the rest of all. After creation, everything rests in his omnipotence, and after annihilation, everything again returns to rest in him. These are the confirmations of Vedic hymns. Yato va bhutani imani, yato va imani bhutani jayante yena dhyatani jivanti. So these are the different characteristics of the super soul. He is there in everybody's heart, although he appears divided, but he is not divided. He is a maintainer of all, and at the time of annihilation, he finishes everything. Text 18. Jyotishamapi tadjyotis tamsa paramuchyate jnanam gyayam jnangamyam riddhi sarvasya vishtitam. He is a source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So more qualities of the super soul are mentioned here. The super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, is a source of light in all luminous objects like the sun, moon, and stars. In the Vedic literatures, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, that Brahm Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by the Mahatattva, the material elements. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no such need. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. So here, the first line it says that he's a source of light in all luminous objects. Means in the like Prabhupada explaining, in the spiritual world, there is no need of light because everything is illuminated by the bodily effulgence of the Lord. That Brahm Jyoti, everything is effulgent by that. But what happens in the material world? The material world is, like it is said, no? In the corner, one insignificant corner of the spiritual world, it is covered, that place is covered by a cloud called Mahatattva. Mahatattva are the material elements. So because of that cloud, the Brahm Jyoti, the light, it cannot go through. So that's why below the cloud, Krishna has to create some artificial light energy, which is called sun. Of course, we think sun is natural. Sun is natural, it's not artificial. So we have to create artificial lights and tube lights and LED lights and so many different lights. But the sun, the material sun, is also kind of artificial. It's not the spiritual light. So Krishna has to create this light here in the material world for the material world to go on. Otherwise, there will be all complete darkness. And this sun that Krishna creates in the material world, just one sun is there to illuminate the whole one material universe. And there is no alternate to that either. It's not like scientists can create so many millions and millions and millions of lights that can replace sun. There is no way. I mean, although we have so much of light at night, but just one sun is necessary to illuminate the whole country or a whole region. So we cannot even replace, we cannot even imitate that sun. And that one sun Krishna has created in one universe, full one universe, just one sun. Okay, you do the light here. And yes, the sun has been giving us the light since the beginning of creation, without any power bill. Krishna has created that. But in the spiritual world, there is no need for such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. This is also confirmed in Vedic literature. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of the material world. So he is the source of all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. And about the knowledge, Prabhupada writing, his knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to the spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. So his knowledge is transcendental, or the knowledge that he gives is also transcendental. One Vedic mantra says, one must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, that is called Gyan Gamya. Gyan Gamya means where all the knowledge goes, or the goal of every knowledge. It's also confirmed in Vedic literatures. Tame viditveti mrityumiti. Only by knowing him one can surpass the boundary of birth and death. He is situated in everyone's heart as the supreme controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, that there are two knowers of the field of activity, the individual soul and the super soul. So there are two knowers, and this was one of the questions of Arjun. And one is individual soul and one is super soul. So Krishna has given the characteristics of both. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Super Soul, is a Prabhu or Master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Super Soul and the individual soul are always different. So the individual soul, which is part and parcel of the Super Soul, is not Paramatma. The Atma, Jivatma, is not Paramatma. Paramatma, to look at the qualities of Paramatma, is the source of knowledge, source of all the light, and so many other qualities Krishna has mentioned. So we have to understand, sometimes people do believe, some people like Mayavadi, so we are Paramatma. No, there is Jivatma, there is Paramatma, and they both are different. Text 19. Iti kshetram tata jnanam gyayam chauktam samasatah madbhakte tad vigyaya madbhavayo padyate. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So finally, it all comes to devotion. See, in the word, it's not like Prabhupada is writing this, that's why he said only my devotee. He says, Krishna says, Mad Bhakta etat vigyaya. Mad Bhakta. Only my devotees can know me. And Mad Bhava, Mad Bhavayo Papadyate. And then he attains to my spiritual nature. The Lord has described in summary the body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is of three things: the knower, the knowledge, and the process of knowing. Combined, these are called Vijnana, or the science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. The monists say that at the ultimate stage, there are these three items become one. But the devotees do not accept this. These three items means the knower, which is the soul and the super soul, the knowledge, the knowable, and the process of knowing. They all are three, they're different. Of course, at the ultimate stage, they are one in the sense they all are spiritual. But they don't merge, they don't become one in the sense that there is no difference in all three. There is difference. Knowledge and development of knowledge mean understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. We are being led by material consciousness, but as soon as we transfer all consciousness to Krishna's activities and realize that Krishna is everything, then we attain real knowledge. That is real knowledge. That Krishna's service is everything. That's what Krishna also says, no? Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. Vasudeva sarvamiti samatma suddharupa. That soul is very rare who understands that Vasudeva sarvamiti. Not that it means everything Vasudeva, but the shelter of everything is Vasudeva. Or everything comes from Vasudeva or Krishna. That is the real knowledge. In other words, knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stage of understanding devotion service perfectly. In the 15th chapter, this will be very clearly explained. Now, to summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7, beginning from Mahabhutani and continuing through Chetatman Dhriti, analyzing the material elements and certain manifestations of the symptoms of life. These combine to form the body or the field of activities. In verse 8 through 12, from Amanitvam through Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, describing the process of knowledge for understanding both types of the knower of the field of activities, namely the soul and the supersoul. Then verses 13 through 18, beginning from Anadi Matparam and continuing through Hridhi Sarvasya Vishishtitam, describe the soul and the supreme Lord or the supreme soul or the super soul. Thus, these three items have been described: the field of activity, which is the body, kshetra, the process of understanding, gya or jnana, and both the soul and the super soul with kshetragya. It is especially described here that only the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can understand these three items clearly. So for these devotees, Bhagavad Gita is fully useful, and it's they who can attain the supreme goal, the nature of the supreme Lord, Krishna. In other words, only devotees and not others can understand Bhagavad Gita and derive the desired result. So here in this verse, Krishna himself clearly says, only my Mad Bhakta only can understand this properly. And that too, they understand it because it's they got the mercy of Krishna by which they understand it. Others, jnanis and yogis, because they don't aspire for the mercy of Krishna. They want to understand everything on their own, by their own capabilities. And that's why they can't understand everything. Prakritim purusham cheva vidyanadi abhavapi vikaransha gunashya vidhi prakriti sambhavam. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Their transformations, material nature and the living entities are beginningless, but the transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. By the knowledge given in this chapter, one can understand the body, the field of activities, and the knowers of the body, both the individual soul and the super soul. The body is a field of activity and is composed of material nature. The individual soul that is embodied and enjoying the activities of the body is a Purusha or the living entity. He is the one knower and the other is super soul. Of course, it is to be understood that both the supersoul and the individual entity are different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is in the category of his energy, and the supersoul is in the category of his personal expansion. So they both are different. Living entity is energy, body is also energy, body is material energy, living entity is Tatastha Shakti, but the supersoul is his personal expansion, is Krishna's personal expansion. Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say, that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. But the living entities are of the superior energy. So the material energy is also eternal, and the living entity is also eternal. Material nature manifests and unmanifests after a certain time. The living entity always there, sometimes as having some material body and sometimes having spiritual body. But the living entities are superior because they are the Tatastha Shakti. So they have, but because of they have the superior nature, but by their consciousness, they think they are under the material nature. That's where the problem begins. Of course, they are superior. That's why in fourth chapter, Krishna says, the living entities are the ones who are exploiting this material nature. But because of our consciousness, we come under this material nature, because then we are trying to control this material nature, and that we cannot. If we come to our superior consciousness, spiritual consciousness, then the idea becomes that I'm not trying to control or enjoy, I'm trying to use this material nature in the service of Krishna. And the soul can do that. It's not impossible. It is doable, very much doable. But that situation or that stage comes after long times of practice. That's all. Both the living entities and material nature existed before this cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of God at Mahavishnu. And when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahatattva. Similarly, the living entities are also in Him, and because they are conditioned, they are averse to serving the Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with the coming forth of material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. So, this material creation is basically prepared or manifested to give the conditioned, the rebellious living entities a chance to understand their mistake and to go to correct themselves, to rectify themselves, and go back to the spiritual world. Actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. It really does not matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. Just to give, although it's not the perfect example, just for us to understand how the living entity, although it is superior to material nature by constitution, the clutches of material nature. Just like we have all seen an elephant Elephant, we have discussed this example before, is very, very strong animal, very powerful. But because of his desire to enjoy the senses, and for elephant, there are only two senses that are very strong. One is to eat and to have sex. So just to enjoy these two senses, he becomes so conditioned, so controlled by little bit man who's known as Mahavat. He sits on top of the elephant, on the neck of the elephant, and he has this ankush in his hand, the goad, and by which he controls such a big, such a powerful elephant, powerful animal like elephant. Why? Although the elephant is very strong, very powerful, he can just grab that Mahavat in his trunk, in his sound, and throw him on the ground, kill him, and go away and enjoy. But he doesn't, because he has become captured. He has become conditioned by his own desires. So similarly, the soul, although it's very, very powerful, because it's part and parcel of Krishna. And look, Krishna is just explaining the nature of super soul. Super soul is so powerful. Just imagine how powerful Krishna must be himself. So living entity is part and parcel of that super soul. And he's very, very powerful. In third chapter, Krishna says that these senses, beyond the senses is mind, and beyond the mind is intelligence, and beyond the intelligence is the soul. Beyond means it's control. It's means it's more strong. So that's how strong the soul is. It's beyond this mind and intelligence and the senses. But but we have become conditioned because of our desires, material desires to enjoy this body, that we have kind of forgotten our constitutional, independent, strong position. And that's why we have come under the material nature, or this material body, or these material senses. We are very, very powerful. But then we have become conditioned, and we have forgotten. And that's why when we pray to our guru, spiritual master, why we always pray like Om Agyan Timrandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakya. Means my eyes are closed because of ignorance, because of darkness. And you have given me, and with your torch of knowledge, you have opened my eyes. Our eyes are closed. We have become conditioned. We think I am this body. We think I'm the maintainer, or I'm the proprietor, or I'm the I'm the um, I'm the one taking care of this family, this society, this country, everything. But this is not us. This is ignorance. We are not this body. This is the beginning of actually self-realization, science of self-realization, to understand the difference between the soul and the body. This is the beginning, ABC. The bhav of Krishna, the bhav of a devotee with Krishna, and and the Ras Leela, the pastimes of being with Krishna, they all come much later, much later. These are very advanced stages. That's why Prabhupada, he always, even if we listen to his last lectures, he would always stress on only one thing: you are not this body. Because to cross over that point, to understand, to realize, to really come to the level of that I am not this body is so difficult. And if I'm not this body means I'm spirit soul. So then our thinking, our dealings, our behavior, and everything should be on that basis that I'm not this body. I'm a spirit soul. And spirit soul is very, very, very powerful. What is impossible for a spirit soul about this material desires that we talk about? Oh, I can't do this, I can't. Soul is powerful, part and parcel of Krishna himself. Krishna, how powerful he is. So it's a soul. Soul can do everything. Nothing impossible for the soul. But we have become conditioned. We have become slaves of our own desires. And that's where the problem is. We think we are limited because of the body that we have. Oh, I have a small body, I have a bigger body, I have a weak body, I have an old body, I have a young body, I have a female body, I have a male body. These are all bodies. They don't represent the power of the soul. Soul is very, very powerful. We just have to unleash that power. That's all. That's why many times there are yogis who show some supernatural powers and people get so enamored. They line up after these yogis, but why? Because we are conditioned and we say, oh, these yogis, they can help me in fulfilling my material desires. So we line up. But this is not what the soul is for, to line up. Soul is there to understand its own potential and to unleash that potential, to remove all the coverings, to remove all the conditionings. And why it happens? Because of rebellious nature. Rebellious nature means I want to be the enjoyer of this material nature. It really does not matter how these living entities or the superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with the material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. All transformations and variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as spirit is concerned, living entities are all the same. They are the same in the sense that we are all a spirit souls. But even in the spiritual realm or in our spiritual identity, we all are different. Means we have different relationship with Krishna. Every spirit soul has its own particular relationship with Krishna. So in that sense, no two spirit souls are same. Of course, the categories are given like, okay, five rasas, five major rasas, and seven secondary rasas are there. The rasa means the relationship or the mellows or the mood. But those are 12 or means five major and seven secondary uh, moods. But even in that, there are unlimited varieties. And every soul has its own variety, that specific rasa, the specific relationship with Krishna. So in that way, every soul is different, but every soul is same uh, in the capacity that they all are spiritual. So that's why this chapter is very, very philosophical chapter, technical chapter. And similarly, 14th chapter when we get to that. Text 21. Karya karan kartritve hetu prakritiruchyate purusha sukh dukhanam bhoktritve heturuchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is a cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. The different manifestations of body and senses among the living entities are due to material nature. There are 8,400,000 different species of life, and these varieties are creations of the material nature. They arise from the different sensual pleasures of the living entity, who thus desires to live in this body or that. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body, not to himself as he is. In his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment and distresses. There's no doubt of enjoyment. Therefore, that is his real state. So this is Prabhupada is writing. In his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment. Means the original state of living entity is what? Sat, Chit, and Ananda. It's eternal, it's full of knowledge, and full of bliss. But when we come into this material body, we are put into distress, happiness and distress, both. Why distress? The soul's original position is to be happy, but it comes under distress. Why? Because of his desire to lord it over material nature, which we can't. At least not in the material consciousness, material body. We can't. But then when we can't, we become distressed. Now the question is, like somebody asked me, who gets distressed? The body? No, body cannot be distressed. Is it the mind? Well, mind on its own cannot have that distress because it is material. So it's the soul only which experiences this distress. Why? Because it has forgotten that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, and he thinks I'm this body. That's why he's put under distress. Mind is an instrument by which he experiences this dukkha or distress. It's very complicated actually. Soul which is supposed to be always happy, made of Sat, Chit and Ananda, but he forgets. And he becomes unhappy. So does that mean there is no unhappiness in the spiritual world? Is the soul always happy? So then why Mother Yashoda sometimes becomes unhappy when she doesn't see Krishna, or Krishna is doing some kind of mischief, or Radharani, and why she is unhappy when Krishna leaves, why the gopis are unhappy when Krishna leaves? Well, those are different levels of spiritual relationships. Even in their unhappiness, there is happiness. Their satisfaction is there of thinking of Krishna. So that level is completely different. When we get to those topics or realizations of the level of consciousness, we'll understand different things. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was crying in Jagannath Puri when he was there in Gambhira. He was crying. He was like not just tears. It was like rivers of tears would come out of his eyes in separation from Krishna. But to come to that level of understanding, realization, that level of consciousness, even to understand Mahaprabhu's feelings, it's very difficult. So, I mean, I don't think I have the proper realizations to even explain that. But here we have to understand the soul only can go through these feelings of pain and distress. Body cannot on its own. Body has no feelings. Body is like a car, the car body. Car doesn't feel any happiness or distress. And mind is also material, so on its own it cannot experience anything until the soul triggers it. The, the senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Now before that, so spiritual world is pure, but in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire different kinds of pleasures for the body. It might be more clear to state that this body is an effect of the senses. The senses are instruments for gratifying desire, not the sum total. Body and instrumental senses are offered by material nature, and as will be clear in the next verse, the living entity is blessed or damned with circumstances according to his past desire and activity. According to one's desires and activities, material nature places one in different residential quarters. The being himself is a cause of his attaining such residential quarters, and his attendant enjoying or suffering. So we get this body based on our desires or unfulfilled desires, actually. And if we think of unfulfilled desires in this body itself, forget about millions and trillions of bodies we had earlier. How many desires of us in this life which are fulfilled, which are partially fulfilled, and which are completely unfulfilled? So more percentages of completely unfulfilled or partially fulfilled. So all those desires combined together, they push us towards next body. And throughout all these millions of lifetimes, we have so many unfulfilled desires. So according to that, we have so many future births planned for us. And in every birth, we will have some unfulfilled desires. And the body we get is to fulfill or an instrument to fulfill those desires. But while fulfilling those desires, we create so many unfulfilled desires. It's like a huge matrix that Krishna has created. So difficult to get out of it. Once placed in some particular kind of body, he comes under the control of nature because the body, being matter, acts according to the laws of nature. At that time, the living entity has no power to change that law. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he is put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. So in the body of a dog, we are there to fulfill our desires, to act like a dog. So in that body, we cannot act like an elephant. He must. Soul is very powerful. Soul is not the dog. But his desires to fulfill, he's been given that instrument, that body. And this is what in third chapter, when Arjun was asking Krishna why a living entity commits sinful activity. Even if he doesn't want to, he acts like he's forced because it's his nature. It has the body has certain limitations, and this is the nature. Nature, in this case, it's not Prakriti, it's the Subhav. That's also called nature. Subhav comes from the body. Body comes from the material modes, from Prakriti. It's so complex, actually. This whole thing, if you just read this chapter properly, we'll develop so much of detachment. What is all this nonsense? Why I am here? See, and Prabhupada, and if the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. We don't want to eat stool. I mean, who in the body of a human being would want to eat stool? But when the same soul gets a body of a hog or pig, he loves to eat stool. Even if you give him nice halwa or something else, he won't eat. So difficult to get rid of our nature. So even in this human forms, we have been given different natures according to our desires to fulfill those desires. So difficult to get out of this nature. That's Svabhava. And then on top of it, when we are performing, trying to perform devotional service, we have those inherent nature that we've been given according to this body. It's so difficult. That's what Arjun says in third chapter. What can repression accomplish? Means we are trying to suppress those nature and trying to, I would say, imitate the nature of self-realized souls. Well, that nature of self-realized souls will develop automatically when we come to that level. Of course, we have to develop. We don't have to imitate. We have to develop. But it's so difficult. At least now we know that this is what we have to develop. This is the goal of life. But everybody still will act according to his nature, his or own nature, according to his level of consciousness, his pace of working on this devotional service, his sincerity. Everybody is different. That's what. Everybody is different. So we have to have that patience, that tolerance to deal accordingly with everybody, compassionately with everybody. This is the law of nature, but in all circumstances, the super soul is with the individuals. That is explained in the Veda. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul, and in all circumstances is present as a super soul or Paramatma. So this is the mercy of Krishna, that as super soul, he still never leaves us. He is always with the soul, always there to guide, always there to help us. But now it's all up to us how fast we take the help, the guidance of the super soul. Anyway, there's so many beautiful more verses to come, and we'll discuss more next time. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one question. This is not on the Bhagavad Gita, but this is on Garud Puran. So when Lord Vishnu preaches on to Garud Dev on about, like, I think this Puran is based on Garud, because Garudji is the medium. He was listening to the preachings from Lord Vishnu. And I mean, this Puran actually, Garudji has questioned about the life after death, or like after the human dies, what happens after that. So it talks about like he goes through hell, or if he has done something good and all those things, what he gets as a result. You know,
Mhm.
so in this, I've also heard that in Garud Puran, if somebody kind of, it's like it's how to say this, it's kind of katha. It's, I think it's 7 days. There is also a katha if somebody does that through some pandit or someone. They will also know the previous life also, what they were. I mean, the or what you call that judgment. If they hear it, they
Okay.
will know about the previous life. Is that true?
Um, that part I don't know, but Garud Puran is, you rightly said what happens after death. He tells in good detail, actually, graphic details are there. I don't know about the previous life. I don't know.
Okay.
But Garud Puran also explains that if somebody is very sinful, when he leaves the body, then Yamdutas come, and sort of that story of Ajamil that also explains how Yamdutas come, what do they look like, and how they grab the soul. Of course, somebody can say, how can the soul be grabbed? But they have the subtle um, shackles or the ropes by which they grab the soul, and then immediately they give him a yatna day, a punishment body. Because soul, now you have to understand, soul cannot be punished. So it has to be given some gross body, and the soul thinks I'm that body, and that's what he gets punished. So they grab, and then they tie him up. They tie him means the soul with the punishment body, yatna de, and they drag him on this road to Yamloka. Yamloka is said to be situated 99,000 yojans away from Earth. So they drag him on the road made of burning sand, and there are no trees, there is no water, nothing. And the soul is suffering and crying. And then the Yamdutas, they take him there, take him to Yamloka. Um, so sometimes people ask, but Yamraj has to decide about the punishment. Why Yamdutas punish the soul beforehand? So somebody was explaining that it just like if police captures a criminal, they put him in the jeep and they take him to the jail or then to the court, and before the judge gives a punishment. So many times these police people, they also beat him up on the way. They do their work. So this is how Yamdutas act, and then they take him, and he really cries, but there's no way out. He cannot run away, and no bribing. He cannot do anything. And then they take him to Yamlok, and Yamraj then decides what body, which planet, and whatever he gets. So this is basically, and of course, Garud Puran also, which I have heard, it talks about chanting of the holy names. So if somebody chants, then it's okay. Ultimately, the aim of all the scriptures is to take one to Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
The reason I have the last thing which I have mentioned, that the Katha of Garud Puran also talks about if someone hears it, if he conduct or arrange a Katha, I think it's a 7 days Katha, he comes to know about his previous life. This is because when I was a kid, my I think my father-in-law, sorry, my grandparents, they have arranged this thing already, and my mother says that they have come to know about the previous life because Panditji, I think he talks about it like through some, like the way we
it
make the Kundali.
it could be, but I don't know.
It's quite
I don't
interesting
know.
actually.
But then the point is, Garud Puran is usually recited at the time when somebody dies at his house. So at least the people around they would listen, and they won't do anything nonsense. Well, why not recite it when we are alive and follow actually? Garudji is such a pure devotee of the Lord. He's always serving the Lord. And why not follow his example?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for explaining.
Thank you, Braji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Prabhuji. Prabhuji, what are the hopes for people like us, people like me then, after reading these two verses?
Chant. That's all. Our only hope is Srila Prabhupada. So by chanting, by following his orders, we'll please him and he'll do miracles.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mata.
Prabhuji, since you have mentioned about Purush Prakriti, I really have some confusion on Sankhya Yoga. It is mentioned a lot about Tattva, like Panch Karmendriya, Gyanendriya, Tanmatrai, Purush Prakriti. So how it is relevant? Like if we are like main goal is to surrender under Krishna, or Bhakti Yoga is the highest form of all the yoga, then like why it is mentioned about all such stuff? Like how can we relate? Can you please help me? Because I get confused here.
See, one thing is devotees are not devoid of any knowledge. They have the knowledge and they understand it factually. And moreover, everybody, as I said, every soul is at a different level of consciousness. So some people will love to read about Sankhya. Some people will love to read about Hatha Yoga or perform or practice that yoga. So it's everybody has a different inclination, but it's the idea is slowly, if they follow that, they will come on the path of bhakti. And even the devotees, like how wonderfully Srila Prabhupada is explaining, and he's a pure devotee of the Lord. But he has the knowledge, and he's explaining, so we can understand the devotees are not without knowledge, but their main focus is on serving and pleasing Krishna.
Yes, that's what actually now the world is going more logical. They simply cannot understand what is Bhakti Yoga and why do we need to surrender. I mean, they themselves have started thinking that they are the God themselves. Advaita philosophy is propagating everywhere. So that is why, since you have mentioned about Purush Prakriti, I wanted to know about more. And what is Sankhya Yoga basically?
See, Sankhya means analyzing the elements of the universe or the nature. What's all this made up of? And yoga means to really understand everything comes from Krishna and everything should be engaged in the service of Krishna.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
I mean, this is in a nutshell.
You will love that wonderful.
I'm sorry. Moshi Mata, you love that description of Sankhya Yoga when Lord Kapil Dev speaks to Mother Devhuti in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so many verses after verses. There's so much of philosophy given in that. Yes, Radha Prabhu, you were saying something.
I said thank you very much for that wonderful and precise answer. There's one line.
Okay, thank you all very much. And actually, it's midnight for me right now. Somehow, still Trying to gather my thoughts together and speaking.
Prabhuji, just one thing. It's about the daylight saving. I think the time has shifted 1 hour for you ahead.
Yeah, it's not daylight saving anymore.
Sorry, it's not. So what time is it there?
12 o'clock.
And it's midnight right now. And actually, I have moved to the East Coast now, in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So is that okay for you, Prabhuji? This timing?
12 o'clock is
It's okay.
I know.
Well, it's going to be Friday and Saturday night only, so it's okay. Weeknights, it will be 11:30.
No, if you wish, like we can. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can come early.
Yes, I'm also about
We can
to say
join
that.
early also.
Weekends are okay. The weekdays we can discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, weekends it's okay for me. But even for weekends we can have it at 8 o'clock, Prabhu, if everybody is agreeable to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's float the message. If everybody agrees, then it's okay.
Yeah, I know it's a very great inconvenience for you to stay awake till midnight.
Yeah, you should sleep.
It's not the staying awake. It's so much of philosophy, and you really have to gather your thoughts properly before you speak.
Yeah, actually some devotees told me about it, that now Prabhuji shifted to a place where the time zone is different and it is going to be midnight for him. Earlier I think it was 11 o'clock. It was still okay because I know you sleep around 10:30, so half an hour you extended for us. But now this 1.5 hours is really going to affect your own sadhana. So I thought that we'll propose this to the devotees in the class. If they are all okay, 8 o'clock we can have it. So at least half an hour earlier you can go to bed.
Yeah, that'll be great. But if not, it's okay. It's service of Prabhupada. It's
Going
okay.
to there are 15 to 20 devotees who are regularly attending. If all of them are okay with that time, then we'll have it.
Yeah, if everybody, because I know Mataji's in the morning, they'll be preparing prasadam for kids, getting everybody ready, this, that. So much of stuff goes on.
At 8:30 also, some Matajis are cooking and then they are hearing the lectures. So if they are cooking, and they can put the headphone and keep listening to the lectures.
Well, we can float the message and see if everybody agrees, then we'll change it. Otherwise, it's okay.
Yeah, let's take